right now, there is a Republican primary going on between a bunch of candidates. We got Donald Trump, we got Ron DeSantis, we got Chris Christie, we got Mike Pence, we got Nikki Haley, we got Vivek Ramaswamy, we got Tim Scott, and that's just who's announced. I can't believe I remembered them all. Oh my goodness. That's just who's announced. There's a chance that more people throw their hat in the ring. There's talk about, I think there was talk about John Bolton for a bit. I think that's very low chances. Talks about Larry Hogan, the former Republican governor of Maryland, moderate option. I don't like him. I hope he's not president anyway. But there's all this talk about the Republican primary, and we see the vicious throes of it starting with Donald Trump low-key kind of calling Ron DeSantis a pedophile on Truth Social, saying that he made Ron DeSantis and Ron DeSantis would be nothing without him. Donald Trump associated political PACs going after Ron DeSantis for tax policy. Ron DeSantis's war room and the political PACs around Ron DeSantis are trying to fire back at Trump. But Ron DeSantis himself has kind of held back from any direct attacks on Trump. The only person on the campaign trail right now that's consistently willing to go on attack mode in reference to Donald Trump is Chris Christie. And Chris Christie doesn't have a chance of winning anyway. And part of the reason he's running is off the premise of, hey, I'm actually the only person on the stage that is willing to criticize Donald Trump, right? That doesn't mean that he didn't try to get Donald Trump and help him get elected in 2017 and support his administration at least first 1 or 2 years. I don't want to wipe him of any of that responsibility, but he's the only one running right now that actually seems to be willing to throw. And this is interesting because Chris Christie was also somebody who trained Donald Trump in how to debate on the presidential stage, and did quite well against Marco Rubio, setting him off the path from being president by messing with his preordained speech tree. You know how like there's dialogue trees in video games? He had one, and Chris Christie came up to it and chopped it down, a very famous clip. Anyway, primaries heating up. Fox News is in a very weird position because on one hand, Fox News has consistently wanted to get Donald Trump viewers. And this has actually gone so far as to get them into legal trouble, because one of the reasons why they didn't push back on the unfiltered claims and just lies about election interference and it being rigged in 2020 that was aired on the Fox network, a lot of this has been revealed from internal Fox communications. It was done in an attempt to try to keep Fox News viewers watching who like Donald Trump and might, if they get angry, be scared off to, like, I don't know, the Patriot News Network or Newsmax or OAN, One America News Network, any of these other any other websites or services that is also, going to service them and just tell them whatever they want to hear. But that clashed with the sad reality, which is the fact that Donald Trump was losing and the election wasn't rigged. And this was most evidently shown. Their want to have viewership, their want to have people watching them through them lying about this stuff, or at least not correcting the lies, and the Dominion lawsuit crashing against them, bringing them down for over $800 million. So that's the situation we find ourselves in. That's the situation Fox finds itself in. And for the first time, we're starting to see Fox News actually throw hardball interviews at Trump, whether this is out of a motivation to make sure they don't behave like they did before, whether this is the motivation of knowing that if Donald Trump is the nominee with all the legal troubles he has, the fact that he's a political firecracker willing to go off at any time, or the fact that he's just an unintelligent and risky pick for the GOP, they seem pretty confident right now in making low-key criticisms with Trump and now asking him tough questions they would not be willing to ask him before this Republican primary. Let's see one of these hardball questions that is thrown at him by a Fox News interviewer that is quite good and really gets to the key of one of the biggest concerns many Republicans have with Donald Trump, is the fact that his appointments were dog garbage, just absolutely garbage. I mean, like hot dog water, if he wanted to make institutional change to the quote unquote swamp. Listen to what he has to say. Listen what the Fox News interviewer asked Trump, and listen to Trump's unbelievably unprepared and piss poor response to this. He doesn't know how to deal with the pressure.
In 2016, you said that. I'm going to surround myself with only the best and most serious people.
Well, I did do that, and we had tremendous, look, we had the best economy we've ever had, the world has ever seen.
Your Vice President, Mike Pence, is running against you.
Yeah.
Your Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, she's running against you. Your former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, said he's not supporting you. You mentioned National Security Advisor John Bolton. He's not supporting you either. You mentioned Attorney General Bill Barr, says you shouldn't be president again, calls you a consummate narcissist and troubled man. You recently called Barr a gutless pig. Your second defense secretary is not supporting you, called you irresponsible. This week, you and your White House called your White House Chief of Staff, John Kelly, weak and ineffective and born with a very small brain. You called your acting White House Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney, a born loser. You called your first Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, dumb as a rock, and your first Defense Secretary, James Mattis, the world's most overrated general. You called your White House Press Secretary, Kayleigh Canadian, milquetoast, and multiple times you've referred to your Transportation Secretary, Elaine Chao, as Mitch McConnell's China-loving wife. So, why did you hire all of them in the first place?
Because I hired 10 to 1 that were fantastic. We had a great economy. We had phenomenal people in charge of the economy. We had phenomenal people in the military. I'm not a fan of Milley, and I'm not a fan of certain of the television people, but I knocked out ISIS. I defeated ISIS. They.
What a terrible response. He just lists I don't know, the world championships of people who don't like Donald Trump, and it's all people who worked for him during the Trump administration. He asks, like, you say you picked all the right people, why do all the right people hate you, or you hate them, or you've parted ways with them? And his response is, well, that was only a small percentage. That was a lot of names. And these are just the most egregious cases. There are other cases as well of people that he didn't mention, and certainly cases which go unreported of people who did work for him during the Trump administration, now don't work for him, but probably never will again because of how hectic it was to work for Donald Trump, how dangerous it is to be around Donald Trump as we're watching all these legal repercussions come in. And, you know, he might have been hell to work with. And so now they're just not going to return the calls, or they're not going to be part of another Trump administration if Trump somehow gets reelected. So this is a piss poor response. He basically just says, like in response. This is response. That's it. Like it's that's not a lot of names. It was. And then he pivots to beating ISIS. What does this have? What does that have to do with anything? What does ISIS have to do? What? Also, can I just say, Donald Trump beating ISIS was simply following through Obama's plan for Operation Inherent Resolve, which was a good plan. So, surprisingly, it went well. Worked with local allies, the SDF, to finish off or try to beat ISIS. And then he pulls out of northeastern Syria, causing a Turkish incursion into northeastern Syria, where they're backed militias and jihadi groups are dragging Kurdish politicians out of cars and executing them on the side of the street, and it causes an ISIS resurgence and prison breaks in the area, where ISIS fighters escape from prison, and their activity has increased in assassinations of village elders and other activities, because he just had a whim in the middle of the night, something that he kept flip-flopping on over and over and over again, whether he was going to withdraw from northeastern Syria. And one of his justifications for it, was, I don't know, the Kurds weren't with us at D-Day. An unbelievably ridiculous premise. Anyway, let's finish.
He said, Mattis, it would take 3 years, and I don't think we can do it. I did it in a period of like 4 weeks.
There's a lot of people who praise you for your policies. I just said that.
That's true. Well, I mean, you just went through a list. But don't forget, for every one you say, I had 10 that love us. And one thing happens.
Crazy that there's not a gigantic list like that, though. Like, where's the names that Trump like quotes of like all the people during Trump administration that he loves, he's gonna rehire? Because I don't see that list, man. I don't see that list. That list is crazily strong. Is crazily fucking gigantic. And there's no the reports of the Biden administration and like 10, 20 people in a row that Obama called like a knuckle dragger or a doorknob sucker, a window licker, a dumb guy, somebody with a very small brain, whatever insult you want to throw. That doesn't exist. The fact of the matter is that when Donald Trump became president, he was somebody with no political experience, period. He's never held elected office before. Then he's president of the United States. He has no clue what he's doing, no experience. This is why, in my opinion, somebody shouldn't go from never holding elected office to being president of the United States. You should have some amount of experience. You should have good political connections. You should have someone to guide you. And Donald Trump didn't really have that. And so he basically just relied on the blob that was existent around the Republican Party as everybody just started calling him and either asking for jobs or people were being recommended to him. John Bolton didn't ask for a job. They went to John Bolton, by the way. Because a lot of this people try to say, oh, well, no, it was just like the Washington blob kind of just consumed Trump and he was unwilling and unknowing to the... John Bolton was recommended to Donald Trump, and then Donald Trump goes out and gets John Bolton. It was on Donald Trump's initiative and the people around him initiative, his staff, that they went out and got people like John Bolton, went out and got oil and gas execs like Rex Tillerson. So he can't be blameless for this. He has final say at the end of the day. He's president of the United States. The buck starts and stops with the president. So he can't just completely blow these people off. What's going to stop Donald Trump from making the same terrible mistakes and making picks next time? In fact, if anything, I'd be more scared for second round Donald Trump picks, because this time I think he's going to rely a lot less on the experts around him who can maybe pick somebody with some relevant experience in the field. And Donald Trump's just going to be like, I just saw this guy in like a morning newspaper. He's our new defense secretary. Or I saw this guy so-and-so place. I saw his book recommended on Amazon. He's going to be our new this. He's going to be our new that. My goodness, man. Donald Trump got roasted here by Fox. A very rare occurrence, but hopefully it won't be the last.